Just ask yourself this: can our world survive in its current state if we don't figure out how to be kinder to each other? For real, take a beat and marinate in that question for a minute. Personally, I don't think that it can, and I don't think we have the luxury to wait to begin. Welcome to the Kindness Extremist podcast. I'm your host, Shola Richards, aka Brother Teresa. I've spoken to tens of thousands of people all over the world about the importance of kindness, and I am obsessed with how we can bring more kindness into our daily lives and restore balance to a deeply unbalanced world. Every episode, I'll give you 3 practical strategies to create a kinder world, and I'll do it in 30 minutes or less. No fluff, just valuable, actionable content that you can implement in your life immediately after listening to help you actively create a kinder world. There's no time to waste. Let's dive in. What's up, my friend? Welcome to episode 32 of the Kindness Extremist podcast. I'm your host, Shola Richards, and I'm so fired up to share today's episode with you. So yesterday, November 2nd, was my birthday. Whoop, whoop, Scorpios in the house. Let's go. And to celebrate the start of my 52nd trip around the sun, I want to share with you something that I've been working on in silence for a while now. This has been brewing in my mind and my heart for what actually feels like years. And honestly, I am equal parts excited and terrified to put it out into the world. Today, I'm unveiling a new brand, a new framework, and quite frankly, a new mission that I believe has the power to transform not just our workplaces, but our schools, our communities, our prisons, and yes, even our families. It's called Strong Enough to Be Kind. And contrary to popular, and dare I say misguided belief, kindness is not weakness. Keeping it real here, I believe the real problem that our world is facing is that many people don't have the strength to be kind. Yeah, I said it. And I plan on addressing this issue directly with my Strong Enough to Be Kind model. Now, before you think that this is some kind of shameless plug for my new stuff, and to be clear, look, I do have a new website, a new keynote, a new speaker reel, and a new killer self-assessment that I'm genuinely proud of. And I'd love it if you took a minute to check it out. All that goodness is currently sitting on sholarichards.com. Still though, this episode actually isn't about all that good stuff. This episode is about addressing what inspired my work in the first place. Specifically, it's about addressing the 3 biggest excuses that I hear from people about why they can't be kind in today's world. Here are the 3 excuses that I'm hearing everywhere these days. 1, I'm too overwhelmed and too burned out and too exhausted to think about kindness. 2, I'm only one person. What meaningful change can I make? The world's a dumpster fire. And 3, I'm not willing to risk my career, my relationships, or even my safety to take a stand against unkindness. Any of those sound familiar? Here's the thing. I get it. These excuses aren't coming from a place of laziness or apathy. They're coming from a place of real pain, real exhaustion, and real fear. And that's exactly why we need to talk about this, because the Strong Enough to Be Kind methodology doesn't just dismiss these concerns. It directly addresses them with 3 powerful pillars. Start within, just today, and go first. And here's what makes me most excited about this work. I've been dreaming about bringing this methodology to places that desperately need it. Elementary schools and middle schools where kids are learning how to navigate relationships for the first time. Workplaces where people are burning out and checking out. And yes, even prisons where people are working to rebuild their lives and break destructive cycles. Imagine a world where school-age kids learn that being kind isn't about being weak. It's about being strong enough to do the right thing even when it's hard. Picture workplace teams understanding that kindness isn't a nice to have, it's their competitive advantage. Imagine incarcerated individuals discovering that the person they become while they're inside is the person who they take with them when they leave. That's the dream, my friend, and it all starts with an understanding of this framework. I believe that I've created something that's simple enough for children to practice, but robust enough for high-performing Fortune 500 CEOs and executives to apply to their daily lives on a daily basis. One thing is for sure, needless complexity will not serve us in the important work of creating a kinder world. Complexity doesn't scale. However, simple, clear, and effective strategies do scale, and it's time that we start and grow the movement to get as many humans as possible engaged in this critically important work. If nothing else, just ask yourself this: can our world survive in its current state if we don't figure out how to be kinder to each other? For real, take a beat and marinate in that question for a minute. Personally, I don't think that it can, and I don't think we have the luxury to wait to begin. That's why I created this model and I'm sharing it with you now. So today, I'm going to break down each pillar, address the excuse that it tackles, and give you practical strategies that you can implement immediately. Because that's what I do on this podcast. I don't just talk about that kindness life. I'm here to provide you with the tools to practice it in real world, in real time. Are you ready? Let's become strong enough to be kind. The first pillar of the Strong Enough to Be Kind framework is to start within. This pillar addresses the first common excuse, which is, I'm too overwhelmed, too burned out, and too exhausted to think about kindness. Let me tell you something that might sting a little. And this excuse is both valid and completely dangerous at the same time. It's valid because burnout is real. Emotional exhaustion is real. The crushing weight of trying to survive in a world that feels increasingly hostile is absolutely real. And it's also dangerous because when we don't prioritize our holistic well-being, our emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual health, we create a cascade effect that doesn't just reduce kindness, it undermines everything. Our decision-making quality dissolves, our team performance suffers, our resilience evaporates, and we become part of the problem that we're trying to solve. Here's the hard truth that most people miss. You can't give what you don't have, and you can't scale what you don't model. You know this is true. When you're running on empty, angry, depleted, or just broken down, it's impossible to show up as anything other than reactive and defensive. You snap at your kids, you're short with your colleagues, you withdraw from your friends, and then you feel guilty about all of it later, which makes you feel even worse. And this is where the challenge of start within comes in. It's about choosing commitment over convenience. And if you need a powerful definition of commitment, here's my all-time favorite. Commitment means doing the thing that you said you're going to do long after the mood you set it in has left you. Here's the thing. Self-kindness is easy when it's convenient and when you feel like it. It's easy to prioritize rest when you don't have a looming deadline. It's easy to maintain boundaries when nobody's pushing against them. It's easy to eat well when you have time to meal prep. But real self-kindness, that requires commitment, especially when it's inconvenient and you don't feel like it. It may mean leaving work at a reasonable hour even when your boss is still there. It may mean saying no to that extra project even when you want to be seen as a team player. It may mean going to therapy even when you're exhausted. It may mean choosing the difficult practice that strengthens you over the easy comfort that depletes you. Commitment over convenience. That's the challenge of start within. This is why the first pillar of the Strong Enough to Be Kind framework is start within, because high-performing teams who operate from a place of strength realize that they must start with kindness to themselves before creating cultures worth fighting for. This is the crucial step that most teams, most organizations, and most people miss entirely. Now, let me be clear what I mean about this kindness to ourselves stuff. I'm not talking about bubble baths and spa days. And to be clear, I am not being dismissive of that stuff because I'm all for that. Please know there's no one on earth that loves a good deep tissue massage more than this brother. However, self-kindness is different from self-care. That's why I've combined self-care and self-kindness and rebranded it as tough love self-care. Tough love self-care involves the difficult practices that strengthen your mind, your body, and your spirit for life challenges. This includes prioritizing rest even when work demands more, eating nutritious foods that fuel your energy, maintaining regular exercise or movement, seeking professional help when needed, setting and maintaining healthy boundaries, recognizing when your emotional state is affecting your performance. This is what it means to start within, and if we're serious about creating a kinder world, we need to commit to this work. Oftentimes, I see people who sincerely want to bring more kindness into the world, but they skip the critical step of starting within, and predictably, they're always the ones who burn out the quickest. Case in point, years ago, I worked with a leader, let's call her Julia, who was absolutely drowning. She was working 70-hour work weeks, her team was struggling, and she was convinced that taking time for herself would be selfish and irresponsible. I asked her a simple question. When you're depleted, stressed, and running on fumes, what kind of leader are you? She paused, and then she admitted, reactive, short-tempered, not my best self. Exactly, I said. So by not taking care of yourself, you're actually being irresponsible to your team. They need you at your best, and that requires you to prioritize self-kindness. So Julia started small. She committed to leaving work by 6 p.m. twice a week. She started going to therapy. She began saying no to commitments that drained her without adding value. And you know what happened? Her team performance improved. Her decision-making got sharper. Her relationship at home got stronger. Why? Because she finally understood that self-kindness isn't selfish. It's the foundation of sustainable excellence. So here's your first practical kindness strategy of the episode. This week, I want you to identify one tough love self-care practice that you've been avoiding. Maybe it's finally scheduling that therapy appointment. Maybe it's setting a boundary with a colleague who constantly dumps their work on you. Maybe it's committing to 8 hours of sleep instead of doom scrolling until 2 a.m. Write it down, put it in your calendar, treat it as non-negotiable. This is what it means to start within. And remember, this isn't selfish. This is about becoming strong enough to be kind to everyone else in your life. Because here's the formula. When you start within and build your individual excellence, you create the capacity to show up powerfully for others. Simply put, my friend, if you're serious about creating a kinder world, you can't skip this step. It's the foundation everything else is built on, and we need this foundation to be as strong as possible in preparation for what's coming next. The second pillar of the Strong Enough to Be Kind framework is just today. This pillar addresses the second common excuse, which is, I'm only one person. What meaningful change can I make? The world's a dumpster fire. Okay, real talk, I feel this excuse in my bones. There are days when I look at the news, scroll through social media, and think, what is the point of all this? The world is burning, people are awful to each other, and my little acts of kindness are like throwing a cup of water on a forest fire. If you've ever felt this way, raise your hand. Okay, actually, don't raise your hand. That's weird because you're probably listening to this podcast while doing something else, and that would be awkward, but you get what I'm saying here, right? This feeling of helplessness and hopelessness is soul crushing, and that's exactly what the second pillar of the Strong Enough to Be Kind framework addresses. Just today. Here's the challenge. When teams feel overwhelmed by unprecedented uncertainty, industry disruption, and soul-crushing unkindness, both inside and outside the workplace, they default to behaviors, as mentioned before, of helplessness and hopelessness. This creates cultures where leaders and employees believe that they have reduced agency to make meaningful, positive change. But here's the solution, and I need you to really hear this. Sustainable transformation happens when individuals and teams focus on the positive changes that they can influence just today, rather than being paralyzed by the magnitude of organizational or global challenges. The challenge of just today is to choose daily consistency over the chaos of sporadically trying to address complex issues with crazy over-the-top efforts. Think of it like building your strength in the gym. You don't just walk in the gym one day and start deadlifting 500 pounds, do you? You start with the weight you can handle today. Then tomorrow, you add a little more, and then a little more. And over time, those small, consistent actions compound into massive results. Consistency wins over chaos every single time. Building a culture at work or in our communities that is strong enough to be kind works the exact same way. It doesn't require big and flashy events. It requires the consistent execution of high impact behaviors one day at a time. One of my favorite concepts is the ripple effect of micro actions. Small, consistent kind actions at work create massive cultural change over time. Every kind gesture to a colleague or a member of your community increases the likelihood that they'll be kind to someone else. Helping a teammate with a project, giving a genuine compliment about someone's work, holding the door, picking up litter, saying thank you with specificity. These meaningful micro actions may seem small individually, but collectively, they transform our workplaces and our communities. I remember working with a team that was absolutely toxic, like over the top. People were hoarding information, backstabbing, the whole 9 yards. One person, just one, decided to practice what I call gossip. That's kind plus gossip. I detailed it in episode 27 of this podcast, and I highly recommend that you check it out. So instead of participating in negative workplace gossip, she started saying lovely things about colleagues behind their backs. Hey, did you see how Sarah handled that difficult client? That was masterful. Or, I just want you to know that James stayed late to help me finish that presentation, and I could not have done it without him. At first, people thought that she was a little bit weird, right? But here's what happened. Those positive words got back to people. Sarah heard that someone noticed her client skills. James heard that his help was appreciated. And guess what? They started doing the same thing. Within 6 months or so, the culture of that team had fundamentally shifted, all because one person focused on what they could control just today. So here's your second practical strategy of the episode. This week, commit to one small, consistent kind action every single day. Just one. It could be expressing specific gratitude to a colleague or practicing gossip. Again, saying something lovely about someone when they're not around. Or offering help before being asked. Giving someone your full, undivided attention during a conversation, or treating everyone you encounter with equal dignity and respect regardless of their role. Just choose one. Do it daily for the next week. And here's the key. Don't focus on changing your entire workplace or solving global problems. Just focus on making your corner of the world a bit better through your choices and through your actions just today. Combat that feeling of helplessness by asking yourself, What action can I engage in just today to improve the situation? Remember, you're not trying to solve entire overwhelming geopolitical problems by yourself. You're just making your immediate environment better one day at a time. And those small actions, they compound. They ripple, they inspire others to join in and do the same. Most of all, they transform our workplaces and our communities in ways you may never fully see. That, my friend, is the power of just today. Hey, fellow kindness extremists, it's me, Shola. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, if you're mowing what I'm growing, if you're smelling what I'm stepping in. Okay, I'll stop. If you're enjoying what you're listening to so far, I would love it if you would take a moment to hit the subscribe button and leave a rating and a review. Those incredibly kind acts go so far in helping me to reach as many people as possible who will join the movement to actively create a kinder world. I appreciate you so much, my friend. Okay, let's get back to the episode. The third pillar of the Strong Enough to Be Kind framework is to go first. This pillar addresses the third common excuse, which is, I'm not willing to risk my career, my relationships, or even my safety to take a stand against unkindness. And I get it. I constantly hear this all the time. Listen, Shola, I see the dysfunction, I see the toxic behavior, I see the missed opportunities for kindness, but I'm just not willing to take the risk to do something about it. And listen, I'm not here to shame anyone for this. Fear of political implications, career risk, or possibly even risking your personal relationships is legitimate. These concerns are real and they matter. But here's what's also real. When good people choose neutrality in the face of dysfunction, problems persist and high performers become disengaged or leave. In our communities, this means that the kindest people sit in silence while the most unkind people happily step up and fill the void created by our inaction. In other words, the culture you tolerate becomes the culture you create. Or as I like to say, what we allow is what will continue. This is why the third pillar of the Strong Enough to Be Kind framework is go first. Lead through courageous action and authentic influence. Be the first to address dysfunction and unkindness when you see it. Be the first to build coalitions of excellence within your organization. Be the first to engage in difficult conversations that drive breakthrough results. Here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. No one else is coming to do this work, fam. It has to be us to go first. Let me be crystal clear about what going first means and what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean being reckless. It doesn't mean sacrificing your safety or your livelihood for no good reason. It means understanding that leadership isn't about having a title. It's about influence and action. Going first means speaking up professionally when you witness discrimination or bullying, checking in with people after they've been targeted or treated poorly, modeling the professional behavior you want to see instead of waiting for someone else to start doing it, having difficult conversations about unfair treatment, standing up for colleagues who aren't present to defend themselves. The challenge of going first means that we're actively choosing courage over comfort, and it's something that most people don't have the strength to do. Let me share a story that still gives me chills to this day. I was working with an organization where there was this one leader, let's call him David, who was known for humiliating people in meetings. Everyone knew it was wrong, everyone hated it, but everyone stayed silent because he had power and influence. Then one day in a meeting with about 15 people, David started tearing into a junior employee. The room went silent. People started looking at their phones uncomfortably, at their laptops. It was like everyone morphed into that internet meme where Homer Simpson kind of slowly backs into the bushes and tries to disappear, except for one person, a mid-level manager who I'll call Lisa. She took a deep breath and said, David, I need to stop you right there. The way you're speaking to Jen right now isn't acceptable, and it's not how we treat people on this team. Yo, the room froze. David was stunned, and here's what happened next. Another person spoke up, then another. Within minutes, 5 people had supported Lisa's intervention. David actually apologized and the behavior stopped. And Lisa? She became the go-to leader everyone wanted to work for. Not because of her title, but because she had the courage to go first. Now, did Lisa take a risk? Absolutely. Could have gone very badly? Yes. But here's what she understood. The risk of staying silent, the risk of enabling harm was greater than the risk of speaking up. Well, what Lisa did was admirable, to be clear. Going first doesn't mean dramatic confrontation. Sometimes it just means being first to apologize when you mess up, being the first to admit when you don't understand something at work, being the first to share an appropriate struggle so others feel less alone, being the first to suggest improvements at work or in our communities, or being the first to build relationships across departments or divisions. And for any kiddos listening to this, it could mean being the first to invite the kid who always is alone at lunch to come sit at your table with you. Here's your third kindness strategy of the episode. This week, I want you to identify one situation in your sphere of influence where harmful behavior is being tolerated. This might be a colleague who consistently disrespects others, or a process that's unfair to certain people, or a culture that allows mistreatment to continue unchecked. Then take one concrete action to address it. If it requires a direct conversation, script it out beforehand. Practice phrases like, "That's not appropriate for our workplace," or "Let's keep this professional and respectful," or "I need to stop you right there. This isn't how we treat people here." Again, and I want to say this to be clear, going first isn't solely about confrontation. For example, if you need to check on a friend or a colleague, do it. If you need to offer an apology, do it. If you need to fix a long-standing issue at work or at home or in your community, don't wait for someone else to do it, or don't wait for someone to give you permission to do it either. Just do it by going first. And remember, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to be willing to go first. This is how we build cultures worth fighting for at work, at home, and in our communities. It can only happen if we're willing to go first. All right, my friend, let's bring this home. We've covered the 3 pillars of the Strong Enough to Be Kind framework, and we've directly addressed the biggest excuses for why people don't practice kindness. Excuse 1 is, "I'm too overwhelmed to be kind." The answer? Start within. Build your individual excellence and fill your cup first. Remember, this means that you're choosing commitment over convenience. Excuse 2, "I'm only one person. What can I do?" The answer? Just today. Focus on consistent daily kind actions that compound over time. You're choosing consistency over chaos. Excuse 3, "It's too risky to take a stand." Answer? Go first. Lead through courageous action and authentic influence. You're choosing courage over comfort. And here's the formula that brings it all together. Start within, just today, go first equals strong enough to be kind. This isn't theory, my friend. These are practical tools to build cultures worth fighting for. And here's what you get when you practice this framework consistently. You don't just get better retention rates, you get people who fight to work for you instead of fighting to leave. You don't just improve communication, you create cultures that genuinely care about each other's success. You don't just reduce toxicity, you create cultures committed to eliminating it entirely. You get an environment that actually walks the talk, where people love what they do and they do it with their full chest, their full heart, and their full body, where they're locked in delivering their best work because they know they're fighting for something that's worth fighting for. Now, I mentioned this at the beginning that I've been dreaming about bringing this methodology to different communities. And I mean that. I've created versions of this framework for elementary school kids and middle school kids, for workplace teams, for families, and yes, even for incarcerated individuals. Because everyone deserves the tools to become strong enough to be kind, regardless of where they are in their journey. If you want to learn more about the Strong Enough to Be Kind framework, explore the self-assessment, or see how this might work to transform your organization, your school, your community, go to my brand new fancy schmancy website, sholarichards.com, and take a look around. I highly recommend taking the free assessment. You're going to love it. And if you know someone who may be interested, please share this episode with them. Most importantly, though, my friend, I want you to start practicing this framework right now, today. What's one tough love self-care practice you need to implement to start within? What's one small, consistent kind action you can commit to just today? And what's one situation where you need to go first and lead with courage? Answer those questions, take action, and watch what happens, because kindness isn't just nice to have, it's your competitive advantage. And the question isn't whether you can afford to invest in becoming strong enough to be kind. In these times, the real question is, how can you not afford to? This is your host, Shola Richards, aka Brother Teresa, and you now know that kindness can't be weak because you just experienced the strength of the Kindness Extremist podcast. Until next time, my friend, the journey to a kinder world continues. Thank you for listening to the Kindness Extremist podcast. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode, and I have one favor to ask of you. If you could kindly hit the subscribe button, leave a rating and a review, not only would that be incredibly kind, but by doing so, you're actively playing a role in growing this movement and ideally getting us one step closer to creating a kinder world. I hope to see you next week for another episode of the Kindness Extremist podcast. Bye for now.